It's week 2. We should not have this many players banged up. Should be a lot easier to submit starting lineups than it actually is. But yeah, we have a ton of injuries to talk about. Let's dive into the first one. This just dropped from Adam Shefty with wide receivers Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze both listed as questionable for Sunday night's game against Houston. The Bears elevated wide receiver Colin Johnson to the active roster from their practice squad. Now, I am not showing this to you to say, oh, go pick up Colin Johnson. He had a great Hall of Fame game. You can play him. Of course not. Even though I will say I actually had at least one class with Colin Johnson at UT, Hook 'em Horns. But it is to say that you cannot start Keenan. You cannot start Rome. Both guys look like they are game time decisions. And even if they do play, I would imagine that maybe they're not players that can be relied upon. You had 93 passing yards for Caleb Williams week 1. I think it's going to be better in week 2. You start DJ Moore and no other wide receivers in Chicago. Now, obviously, this is the big news. Christian McCaffrey placed on the IR. He's going to be missing at least 4 weeks. We talked about this in the live stream last night. Here's what I'll do. I will go ahead and I'll pull up my rankings on the site. I know we kind of prepare just a bit in case CMC was going to go on the IR with these rankings. These are the rankings over on flogfantasy.com, or at least these are my rankings. Obviously, there are more rankings from other creators there. I moved CMC down to running back 8 in my rest of season ranks. I think now, honestly, there's a chance that we need to drop CMC down to about RB10. I think Jordan Mason needs to go ahead of Ramondre Stevenson. I think Jordan Mason needs to go ahead of, I don't know if I'm going to put him ahead of James Conner. I'll put Mason at 20, CMC at 10. Really hope that CMC is only going to be out 4 weeks, but I think that is by no means a guarantee here. So let's keep this moving. Going over to A.J. Brown. Yes, A.J. Brown dealing with the hamstring. I was saying in the live stream last night, oh, don't panic. He was limited at practice on Friday. I know this pops up late, but for A.J. Brown to not be participating at practice on Saturday, I think this is very concerning if you were going to be relying on Brown. This is a wide receiver that obviously, if he were to play, he is an absolute must-start option. Now, the issue that you're going to have is if he doesn't practice on Saturday, he's most likely not playing on Sunday. It's nice that the Eagles have a noon kickoff, though, because you are going to get the clarity before the game. Obviously, Devonta Smith is a must-start player regardless. If A.J. Brown does miss, I think you move Jalen Hurts down with your expectations just a bit. Obviously, you're still going to be playing Jalen Hurts. Actually, I'm sorry. This is the Monday night game. That's the issue. They have a noon game going up against the Saints on Sunday. So with this being the Monday night game, unless we get news regarding A.J. Brown tomorrow, I do not think you can start A.J. Brown. And I'm sorry. That's why I was a little bit confused. I thought he played on Monday and looked it up and saw that Saints game. But anyway, let's go ahead. Russ not expected to play week 2. So Fields is going to start. Not great for George Pickens. Not great for anybody in this offense, but Justin Fields. Fields should be startable this week in fantasy going up against Denver. Already talked about CMC. So Jake Ferguson, unlikely to play week 2. This doesn't change much. Maybe it makes Brandon Cooks a little more exciting than option, just given the fact that they have to rely on Cooks as that secondary piece. I know we had a question in the live stream last night. If anybody was wanting to know, you do not play Luke Schoonmaker. I don't even think he's worth a roster spot because Ferguson may be back by the time we get to week 3. Now, Kenneth Walker is listed as doubtful. I am expecting that Kenneth Walker is most likely not going to be playing. If you go over and look at the backup here in Zach Charbonnet, I stand by. I think that Charbonnet is a phenomenal option. I think that if he was in this year's NFL draft class, he would have been the RB1 in said class. He has the size to be a 3-down player. He had the receiving role at UCLA, his final season there. He had the receiving role year 1 in Seattle as well. Charbonnet was a round 2 pick of last year's NFL draft. So I think Charbonnet is a must-start player. I was hoping that they were going to have Charbonnet's receiving total up on Underdog. It looks like they do have Charbonnet 1.1x to score a touchdown multiplier. I'm sure we're going to have to wait to see what the actual projection is once you officially get news that Kenneth Walker is out. But honestly, I think that Charbonnet is kind of going to be a must-start player. They do have Jordan Mason, higher, lower, 91.5 receiving yards this week. But of course, if you wanted to check out any of these over on Underdog, you can find that link in the description, in the comment section, in the live chat. And if you use code FLOCK going over to Underdog Fantasy, you are not only going to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000, but also with code FLOCK, you're going to be getting that CeeDee Lamb gimme pick more than less than half a total yard against the New Orleans Saints. And you have vulture protection on your running backs right now, where if Aaron Jones gets vultured at the goal line for a rushing touchdown, and you took Aaron Jones with the 1.15x multiplier to score that touchdown, then you actually still get that refund, which is super nice to have that vulture protection. And yeah, if you use code FLOCK, you actually get a free team review and a live stream as well. Just make sure you have an account set up on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your account on Underdog. Now let's move over to Roman Wilson. This is really only important for my Underdog drafts. Obviously, Roman Wilson, not a player that you would look at in a regular redraft league. If he does play, I think maybe it eats into the target share just a tiny bit for George Pickens. Not a big deal. So Jayden Reed still listed as questionable for week 2. I'm expecting that Jayden Reed will play, but I do want to reiterate, if you're looking at the expectations for the passing volume in this offense right now in Green Bay, Jayden Reed is not somebody that you can start. I know that people got very upset with me with my ranking of Jayden Reed this week, but I promise you, Reed is a clear avoid with Malik Willis. You can go over to Underdog and look. They have him higher, lower, 32.5 receiving yards. The passing volume in this offense is going to be absolutely garbage. They have Malik Willis at 164 passing yards, higher, lower against the Colts. You cannot start a single Green Bay Packers receiver this week. Do not start a single Packers receiver, please. Now, Josh Downs listed as questionable. I think Downs definitely worth a roster spot on the bottom end of your bench. If Downs does miss this week, sounds like he may be good to go week 3. If Downs does play, I think maybe the target share in this offense goes down ever so slightly for Michael Pittman Jr. But to be honest, if Anthony Richardson keeps on having only 9 completions in a game, it's not going to matter because nobody will be viable. Now, this was horrendous news for your boy. Your boy made an absolute garbage trade for Hollywood Brown under the assumption that Hollywood was coming back this week going, okay, I want wide receivers in good offenses based off the historical data over wide receivers in bad offenses. The second that I trade for Hollywood Brown, then we get the report, yeah, he missed practice on Wednesday. I go, crap. Then the next day, oh, he missed practice on Thursday. I go, crap, well, I guess I don't have him this week. And then we get the report that Hollywood Brown has surgery, could miss the rest of the season. This is a brutal, brutal spot for yours truly. Like I said, I made an idiotic trade for him in the Flock League. It was a bad trade at the time, obviously. Now with hindsight being 2020, now that we get this additional injury information where I was previously operating the assumption that he was going to be back in either week 2 or week 3, which was what all previous reports indicated. It's horrendous. We had Xavier Worthy as that sell high candidate. But yeah, clearly that also looks like an absolute garbage piece of advice because now if Hollywood Brown, I mean, if he does come back, it's going to be at the very end of the year. Is not really going to make an impact whatsoever. I think Worthy is a player that is a lot more appealing to hold on to the long term. And Hollywood obviously has almost no value now. RIP Mason Dodd. But let's move this over. We already talked about Keenan and Rome both being game time decisions. This is the Sunday night game as well. So don't hold out any hope. Honestly, even if it looks like one of them's trending towards being active Sunday night, I would still just bench both players. Jordan Addison ruled out week 2. It doesn't really change anything here. You're not starting the tight end in Minnesota. You're not starting any wide receiver outside of Justin Jefferson. Maybe Aaron Jones has a few more targets out of the backfield, which would be potentially nice, but it's a horrible matchup going up against the Niners. And then T. Higgins doubtful for week 2. So the A.J. Brown news and the T. Higgins news is maybe good for my team with Chase and Devonta Smith. But yeah, I think that Chase, obviously, must-start guy going up against the Chiefs. Yoshi here against the Chiefs. If you are desperate in a deeper format, you could put him in. Probably not super excited about it. And yeah, Higgins, I mean, he didn't practice at all this week. So wouldn't it be the most surprising thing if he missed week 3 as well? Now, I know we had some worry about Malik Nabers early in the week. Sounds like Malik Nabers is going to be 100% good to go week 2. I think the Giants offense will be better this week than they were in week 1. I think Nabers is potentially that interesting buy low candidate. And then, yeah, obviously we had a ton of Allen Lazard, not much Mike Williams week 1. Mike Williams coming back from the torn ACL. Robert Saleh said Mike Williams was on a 15-play limit week 1. He will play more in week 2. So maybe Mike Williams still worth that roster spot if you think that his play is going to trend upwards. My thing is with the target share that we had from Garrett Wilson, and if Allen Lazard does have a decent role, I think Mike Williams is less appealing than he looked to be a month ago. Because a month ago, I thought Allen Lazard was almost a 0 in this offense. And then going over to Deepak, just a doctor on Twitter over here, just looking at it. He's saying CMC, more pain, suggest IR, concern, worsening, tearing Achilles. 4 weeks helps, doesn't guarantee recovery. Which is why, like I said, going over to flockfantasy.com, you'll see that I did move CMC down to RB10 in our rest of season rankings. Honestly, can y'all spam the chat? Who would you rather have? Would you rather have McCaffrey or Josh Jacobs? McCaffrey or Josh Jacobs at this point? Please let me know which side you're taking in the live chat. And then I'm going to get your opinion on Jordan Mason. I know we've done this 10 times over, but I feel like we just continue to get CMC news and he continues to fall further and further. Jacobs, CMC, Jacobs, CMC, Jacobs, CMC, Jacobs. Cook, Jacobs, CMC, 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 Jacobs, Jacobs, Jacobs. So it does look like everybody's kind of split. My thing is, I think CMC could come back and be the running back 1 overall. I don't think Jacobs could be RB1 overall. I don't think James Cook could be. I don't think ETN could be. I don't think any of these running backs behind Jacobs could. Obviously, if you're in a league where you're saying, Mason, I have no depth, I need somebody to play this week, then you can go Josh Jacobs, then you can go James Cook. But here probably, I don't know. I feel like it's not the worst ranking to have. And then regarding Jordan Mason, like I said, he would be higher in my weekly rankings. These are just rest of season. So rest of season, we're expecting that Benson has a little bit of a role and CMC does eventually come back. Okay. Now, moving this over, Jordan Love, obviously going to be missing, but essentially, if he were to come back too early, it would put him at risk. Burrow, the wrist is going to get better as the season goes on. David Njoku should be out. Hopefully, we get him back in weeks 4 or 5. And then Ferguson is going to be coming back relatively soon. But I think that's it. Obviously, the big stories that you have are the McCaffrey IR news, A.J. Brown not participating in practice when he has the Monday night game. That's very concerning. Obviously, we're going to be looking for additional reports tomorrow morning. But if we get news, I don't know. Until then, if you have a viable option to pivot to, I think you can pivot, given the fact that the Falcons game is Monday night. And then also the Bears guys, both being game time decisions with Rome and Keenan Allen, plus the poor play that you have from Caleb week 1. I think both Rome and Keenan are very clear sets where they don't play until Sunday night. But I think that should be it. I will, of course, be live tonight reviewing teams and answering start-sit questions all through flockfantasy.com. If you want to get one of those team reviews, or if you want to say, well, Mason, Malik Willis is easily going to be better than 164 passing yards. Jaden Reed's easily going to have more than 32.5 receiving yards. I don't necessarily think that's an easy call to make, but if you like any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the description, in the comment section, in the live chat. Code FLOCK will give you a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus code FLOCK will get you a free team review in a live stream through flockfantasy.com. And code FLOCK on Underdog will also get you that CeeDee Lamb special pick of more than less than half total yard. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. And oh yeah, real quick, let me point out too. Underdog actually put out we won't look at the college football picks. But obviously, if you like college football, Underdog has college football picks as well. I just typically go take some Texas higher thens just because I want to root for my Longhorns. But thank you again. Really do appreciate you. And really hope I can check out your team or answer any questions that you have in the live stream later tonight.